Hello and welcome to the Core Outdoors Speaker Series. I'm your host, Jamie Moy, an adventure journalist based in the Selkirk Mountains of British Columbia. Once a month, Core Outdoors seeks some of the best and brightest minds in the industry to inspire the way that we work and play. If this is the first you're hearing of Core, please do check us out online, coreoutdoors.org. Core is spelled with a K. Today, we welcome Sara Lanyon, who is a outdoor apparel designer turned educator. She spent about 10 years designing for some of the most coveted outdoor brands in the world before taking I think at the time it felt like a pretty radical turn in her career path. So I don't want to give away too much of her story other than to say she's now influencing the next generation of outdoor apparel designers. And we're so delighted that she agreed to enlighten us with her story today. Quick housekeeping item. If you have questions, that's fantastic. Just please do save them until the end. We'll make sure to allow time for a proper Q&A after Sarah's done speaking. All right, so let's get started. Sarah, why don't you go ahead and share your screen?
Well, thank you for having me, Jamie. And yes, I'm Sarah. Like Jamie said, I started going down this very set path of designing apparel within the outdoor sector. And after more than 10 years, I quite recently took a big sort of left turn and shifted from designing apparel into teaching at a high school. And in today's presentation, I'm going to speak about my journey. Place is a big part of identity. And until just a few years ago, I always felt like I was trying to get away from home in order to develop my own identity. But in recent years, the emotional pull of home and the long-term connections there has made it hard to know where to land. I grew up in the Lower Mainland on the territory of the Kakite First Nations. My mother, image there on the left, she still lives in the house that we grew up in. I have an older brother who lives with his wife and his dog in Los Angeles. They spend their time working far too hard, I think, but also eating really good food and drinking nice wine and enjoying lots of live music and art. And my father, in the middle there, whom we recently lost. Losing him has profoundly influenced the transitions I'm navigating and the direction that I'm now taking. And I'm currently teaching textiles and foods at a high school level in a small town in Elkford, BC, which is on the Ktunaxa Nation territory. I live here with my dog called Lucky, and he's turning 10 soon, so he's starting to slow down. But for the last 5 years since I adopted him, he's been my main adventure partner. Before teaching, I worked as an apparel designer, and I worked for these three brands. So MEC, this was their logo at the time I was there in Vancouver, and then Helly Hansen and Neurona, which are both based in Norway. I was well on my way to establishing myself as a successful designer. I was progressing steadily in my career and achieving goals. I started work close to home in Vancouver and then got a chance to move to Norway, working in a dream job at an amazing progressive brand until I decided to quit. I took a big risk. I gave my notice after working at Neurona for about 4 years, 3.5 years. And in 2023, me and Lucky left Oslo. I'd been in Oslo for almost 5 years. We left by bike, and for 10 weeks, we biked through 5 countries in Western Europe. I really needed the time and the change of pace in order to reassess what I wanted next. Me and Lucky flew back home to Vancouver from Paris, moved back in with my mom, and I began reimagining what my future could look like. This trip reinforced the reason that I took the risk and leaving my job at Neurona. I was definitely searching for some answers within myself, and I still am, of course. This return home and the opportunity of time and space that I had wasn't just about the possibility of transitioning into a new career. It was about recentering myself around what matters to me and moving closer to a life that matched my values and my priorities. One thing I did know at that time, a couple years ago, was that in the year 2011, when I spent a year and a half living in New Zealand and Australia, I realized that I fit better in a small town, away from big cities, where I was surrounded by the mountains and where the sense of community is strong. No matter how many things I liked about Norway and I liked about my role at Neurona, I was living in a big city. My father lived in the West Kootenays in his 30s, and while I was growing up, he would reminisce about it. And he'd tell me that he could see Nelson suiting me just fine. At this point in time, which was around 2012-ish, that goal of mine or dream to move to the Kootenays solidified. But I had no idea how to get here while making use of my new undergraduate degree and pursuing design work. However, I'll jump back even a bit further and explain a little of how I got to this place, how clothing design became a passion and a career path. I didn't grow up very outdoorsy, but I was passionate about sewing and clothing, fashion, thrifting, and like what we call upcycling. My mother was always sewing and weaving, and she taught me these skills at a young age. In high school, I started snowboarding, and by university, I was really identifying with board and streetwear culture. In 2005, I started studying fashion design at Kwantlen, which is now called the Wilson School of Design. I was becoming very interested in performance material and constructions, and I found meaning where design, culture, and function intersect. And there, my first year of university, Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth came out, and it freaked me out. I remember at this point in time realizing that my interest in thrifting and repurposing was rooted more in just fun and a creative outlet. It was an act on a core value and a desire of mine in creating a smaller physical footprint on this earth. I became focused and intentional on where and how I would begin my career in fashion. So in 2013, I was back in Vancouver and I got my first job in this outdoor industry on the design team at Mount Increment Co-op at their head office in Vancouver. I was working as an assistant designer and I was coordinating our field testing team. This first role of coordinating our field testing team and working directly with users had a large impact on the way that I would develop my design process through working hand in hand with key product users. MEC was a place where our values once aligned. The access to the provided access to the outdoors for me. It was about repairing over replacing gear and environmental care. I was so quickly wrapped in community of people who lives the culture. I borrowed touring skis and equipment. Shout out to the ski buyer at the time, Jonathan Wong, if you're listening. And he introduced me to backcountry skiing, which is a major passion of mine now. We would wake up early and skin up Seymour Mountain before cruising into the office for a day's work. Together, we hiked, we camped, and we went on bike trips. Then we brought our learnings back to the office and collaborated on trying to make good product at a price point that gave other people access to the outdoors as well. I was passionate about product and design, and after a few years, I started noticing the aspects of this world that weren't sitting well with me. I noticed the overproduction of goods and the lack of connection that I felt to the people who are actually building the product in these factories on the other side of the world. I was there for about 5 years, 5.5 years. I took a break in the summer of 2018 and I hiked the Washington section of the PCT for 5 weeks. And during that hike, I decided it was time for me to leave MEC and figure out what was next. I actually enrolled in some courses that I needed to get into teaching program at UBC. However, timing worked out. Lucky, Helly Hansen reached out to me at the perfect time and asked if I wanted to apply for a design role at their office in Oslo, and I was ready for change. So I was very excited. I thought maybe that I could find what I was looking for in Norway, this progressive country. And at the start of 2019, I moved to Oslo. So Helly Hansen, if you're not familiar, is a Norwegian company established over 140 years ago, and their head office is based in Oslo. And my role was on the mountain team, but designing their more outdoor lifestyle collection. I was quickly immersed in this new country, and I had, like I said, I had this vision, which I think most of us do, of Norway as being such a progressive place. I was excited to open my eyes to a different way of doing things. I was experiencing new ways of living day to day, new ways of working on a design team in a new culture. And I felt very special there being Canadian. I felt unique. They wanted to pick my brain. They wanted to know how users' needs were different over here. They wanted to know how the market was different in North America. I started experiencing a way of living where work-life balance was valued. Most industries are unionized, as is the apparel and outdoor industry. It meant that standard working hours were respected. There was a sense that as citizens, they were taken care of by their government, and as employees, they were taken care of by their employers. I think there's a greater sense of security felt among Norwegians, both in the workplace and in day-to-day living. Families have summer cabins and winter cabins, and on Fridays, half the office would disappear after lunch for an extended weekend. And my rent was affordable. My confidence as a designer was growing. And after a year at Helly Hansen, I landed a design role at Norona, whose head office is also in the capital city of Oslo. Norona is another well-established Norwegian outdoor apparel and gear brand. Almost 100 years old, and it's actually still owned by the family that it was founded by. So Jørgen Jørgensen started the brand in 1929, and now the fourth generation Jørgen Jørgensen. Although they haven't all been called Jørgen Jørgensen, but the owner now is. And the brand is most well known for their Gore-Tex ski collection called Lofoten. Today it looks more like the image on the left, but in the mid 2000s when they launched this collection, it grew in popularity due to their sporty color blocking and contrasting zippers that you see there in the right image. Oh, sorry. It is a dream job. It's a company that stands out as making beautiful outdoor product that's high end and built with clear intention. It was a small design team and it was a design director known for his vision. At the office, they had a beautiful in-house sampling room, and our first prototypes were built strong and ready to go out in the field for testing. I just have this short 30-second video. I'm going to show you.
One of the biggest things is that we're developing products in-house. So we go to a production facility with the whole package. So when we talk to our factories, they see that we know what we're doing. And we're able to actually work with them to make sure the products are as we want them to be. Every time you can make sure a product is as good as it can be, it's going to be more sustainable.
Something that I was exposed to at Norona that really inspired me was their dedication to building sustainable product, and that included their dedication to repairing existing product. Since they were incorporated like almost 100 years ago, The practice, this practice of repairing has been part of their DNA as a brand. They have generations of knowledge on how to build long-lasting product. Customers send their Neurona product from all over the world to their head office in Oslo to get them repaired properly. As a designer, I could walk over to the sewers and ask questions about construction that would help me design for durability. I was learning a way of building products that I knew I wanted to bring forward with me. And Norwegians earn good incomes. They have a lot of disposable money and strong purchasing power. And they love spending money on outdoor gear. So work was good. And working there was special. I got to go skiing with our ambassadors and test our gear. The whole company even did a trip up to Lofoten to ski, fish, and hike. After a few years, as the honeymoon period was slowing down, um, things that weren't sitting well for me before were coming back up and feeling more prevalent. I felt I was in this bubble of privilege, which is very much true. But also living in Oslo, I wasn't feeling connected to a community that I could contribute to. I was feeling like an outsider. The way I was living day to day wasn't aligned with what I knew I wanted. I was still living in a big city. So I was a bit disillusioned again. Um, I still love designing product. I still do, and I still am designing product, but I decided I was ready to find something different for myself. And like I said, I already knew I didn't belong in a big city. So this is what brings me to the spring of 2023 when I said farewell to Oslo and to Norway. And me and Lucky with the bike, hopped on the train to the south of Norway here, took the ferry to the north west sort of side of Germany and began our bike trip. And then after the 10 weeks, so I went through 5 different countries. My brother even flew over, met me in London, parked the bike for a couple weeks, did some other touristy things, met up with family in Scotland, um, and then flew back, yeah, from Paris in the middle of August, back to Vancouver and back into my mom's house and started looking for new opportunities and thinking about what was next. And I knew I was really focused now on moving to the Kootenays or putting the lifestyle I wanted first. I spent a summer taking all the prerequisite courses that I needed to get into Nelson's West Kootenay Teacher Education Program, WECTEP. So it's a very small little campus right on Baker Street in Nelson. And it's a 2-year teaching degree or post-grad, squished into a pretty intense 11 months. And I saw this as a very clear opportunity to move to the Kootenays. And I saw teaching home economics, which would become my specialty, as an opportunity to try a different way of living day to day and a way that would hopefully feel closer to my values. I moved here in the summer of 2024 and I started classes last September. And this beautiful thing happened. I had this instant community of other like-minded folks. There was a wide range of people in the program. You know, some were 22 and just finished their undergrads, and others were closer to my age, closer to 40 and preparing for a new career as well. There was even another student. They hadn't actually had a home economics specialty student in quite some years. And then last year, there was 2 of us. So now a really good friend of mine, Britt, who has had somewhat of a similar trajectory going from fashion design for 10 years and then moving into teaching. I couldn't have imagined a better way to move somewhere and find community and build a sense of home that I was looking for right away. So I finished this program in July 2025. Yep. And then in August, took a job that brought me here to Elkford for September. And this is my high school. And Elkford has a population of 2,749 people. So it's certainly not the smallest town in BC, but it is the smallest that I've lived in. And you would not know it from this photo looking at the front of the high school, but Elkford is the wilderness capital of BC. So actually, this is a photo facing the other way when you come out from the high school. The week before starting school in September, I learned that the Woods teacher would not be returning. Which leaves quite a gap because that's certainly one of the biggest elective here in this community, woods and metals. Um, and then I also knew that there was a stack of old Bernina sewing machines, like 70s and 80s sewing machines that had not been used. They were sitting in the pantry in the kitchen and they hadn't been used in apparently 15 years or something. So I put together a small proposal on what I called uh, industrial textiles class, and I showed it to the principal. I proposed that we would bring out these old sewing machines and get the students that were signed up for woods and metals working on these machines, and yeah, we would call it industrial textiles. We would start the semester learning how some of the basic techniques to repair our own gear. And then we would work through the design process. So students would pick a user based on, their sports and their interests. They would ideate, make prototypes, and then we would use our surrounding wilderness, like right outside the high school, to put our products to the test. And they would build new transferable skills. So some students showed interest, and a few days later, me and 11 senior boys and one senior girl moved all the old machines into the woods room. However, being in a remote community, I very quickly discovered that finding technical materials or really any fabric and materials was going to be quite the challenge. I bugged my friends at MEC and new ones that had shifted to Arc'teryx and pretty quickly received some boxes and rolls of technical fabrics and trims for students to start playing with. And then at the beginning of October, I went to the Core Summit, so Core Outdoor Summit in Kimberley. It's like a weekend summit, which some of you here have maybe been to. And so this organization that's based here in the Kootenays in Kimberley, it didn't exist 15 years ago when I finished university and was looking for opportunities or looking for ways to connect being in this area with design. Going to this summit for the weekend, I had the ambition of getting a sense of the outdoor industry and community here in the Kootenays, and then being able to share it with my textile students and kind of expose them as well to what's going on. But I also met so many amazing people. So I met Spencer, who was at Cotopaxi at the time, and Pat Simpson, who owns Ghost Rider Equipment, Nick Marks, who owns Frontier Gear Repair, Ronan Riddell, who is a graphic designer and photographer, and Mel Bland from Kwantlen, which is the Wilson School of Design. And we met here at the summit, and I bugged them all for to see what they could how they could maybe show up for my students and what they could help us see exists. And so in the past couple months, Mel has sent me boxes of fabrics and webbings and buckles. Spencer gave me some of his old products and materials for students to use as reference. And just last 2 weeks ago, Ronan did a virtual presentation on how he uses the design process to create successful logos for his clients. And then here's Pat. He came up to my classroom and presented his prototypes and learnings from his first commercialized product, which is a bear spray canister. It goes on your bike. And then since then, I'm now collaborating with Pat and Nick. This is us meeting in Fernie on a new project under Pat's Ghostwriter Equipment Company, working on more things, more products that you can place on your bikes. And so I'm very excited to become part of the outdoor and design industry here now. I see a future for manufacturing to return to a more localized scale since being here. And something that's really encouraging to me is the Core Outdoors mobile gear repair truck. So I didn't know what this truck was until this fall. But last summer, this mobile truck moved through communities in the Kootenays and setting up for a day, couple days at a time, repairing people's gear that they'd bring up to it. And I think second year, I'm not sure, but the very quickly became overwhelmed with the number of products that people brought to them for repair. And so there's this proposal that folks through Core Rehab and Core Outdoors are working on. And this proposal that I want to see come to fruition is the Core Rehab truck tour, like turn into a permanent repair facility based out of the College of the Rockies. It would elevate awareness of the repair community in the Kootenays. It would contribute to creating a real hub here for this type of work. And then recent names that came up, Hannah and Jasmine, who are also both based in Nelson. Not very familiar with what they do, but I know that there are two other folks that are more connected to this whole repair community. And brands could potentially use this repair center as for third-party repairs. So instead of sending your jackets back to Nerona, maybe in Canada this becomes where they can be repaired. The facility would have state-of-the-art equipment and offer training programs for like sewing technicians specifically for repairing goods. So this kind of moves, like connects also to a new dream that's kind of coming up for me since moving here the past few months. Um, and that's being this first point of entry for young students, helping build foundational design thinking skills and sewing skills and sharing my values at the high school level. This picture in the Hawaiian shirts, my senior boys here, the reality of teaching what I was calling industrial textiles hasn't quite come to fruition or been as I envisioned way back in September, in that first week of school. I tried to jump from 0 to 100. Like these students none of them have sat in front of a sewing machine before. But they did get very motivated when I came to school on a Monday with like a bucket full of Hawaiian print fabrics that I picked up from a garage sale. So if it gets them going, so that was super fun. We all made Hawaiian shirts. But there have been a few students who have really like grasped onto that sort of technical outdoor focus course that I was kind of getting going. So this student here with his first backpack prototype, and the semester's wrapping up, and he's now talking about how he wants to become a designer. And he had never sewn before this fall either. And what really got me jazzed was the first Monday back 2 weeks ago, just after the holiday break. Two students came early to school with their new sewing machines in hand. They brought them to class that day to school. These two boys, grade 11, they love skiing and they just want to keep making cool gear for themselves. So they had asked for sewing machines for Christmas. Um, Working as a designer, um, in my roles as they existed, I wasn't feeling I could make the change or have the impact that I wanted. I haven't had the drive, didn't have the drive to sort of move up the corporate ladder. Um, but through teaching, I am hopeful that I can make these small changes and open up some new opportunities and spark some new passions for students. And like Jamie said at the beginning, like be part of a next generation of designers. And I want that to be, I want there to be folks from this part of BC and of the Kootenays to have those kind of opportunities, not just folks living in um, bigger cities. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks so much, Sarah. That's incredibly interesting. So for everybody who's listening in, watching, I just went ahead and hit the settings that you can unmute yourself and ask a question. You can also show your face on video if you're so inclined. But we'd love to hear questions you have for Sarah about herself, her journey, about the programs that she's implementing at Elkford, about her future vision. I know I heard rumors that there might be something about a ski team happening. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so we have this small, it's like right outside my apartment door. There's this tiny little ski hill with a T-bar, but there's no Elkford secondary ski team. So I'm working with two other teachers and some other community folks and parents, and we're trying to get a ski team started. So I'm a bit tired. Lots
That's
going on.
amazing. Oh, here's one. So that's another option. Yes, you can also type your question into the chat, which will come directly to me. So I see a couple hands raised, but I'm going to start with Spencer's question here in the chat. So he asked, Sarah, what was your biggest takeaway from this past year, and how are you planning to plan for the next year with what you've learned?
I think my biggest takeaway from my year in the West Kootenay teacher education program was that like students want to learn and and students will try doing things, they will do work, they will if they feel that they can. And often what happens when you hit these roadblocks with students, which just happens constantly, is this is understanding that um, it might be for them. They're feeling like they can't hit that net. They don't understand. They can't do it, and might not have the words to vocalize that or understand that. And it's like this term scaffolding, which I got really tired of hearing, but like really trying to meet students where they're at. And if you show them and help them see that they can do it, then they will. And like learning that and then remembering, like even feeling that in myself now, last year, going back to school after many years not, and being like, I can't do this. And thinking back to high school and being like, yeah, I always felt like I couldn't do it. And then you take a little step and step. And so just trying to be able to do that with students as they're like 17 and learning this new skill of sewing, and they just like want to make product fast and they can order it online and have it shipped tomorrow, and it's like no, it's worth learn, like try. And every day, like most days, it feels like I'm like there's an aspect of babysitting, and I just have to remind myself like if I can help like change my approach. Maybe it needs to look like this and how I'm helping them. Um, yeah, that's been one of my biggest takeaways. And then the second part was like moving forward. I'm trying to slow myself down. I'm like been crazy overwhelmed taking on this new career and I want to see change and I want to do things and have an impact and it's like Sarah, slow down. That's what I need to like bring forward.
Nice. I saw that Katrina had a question and she's unmuted and on video. So,
Hi, Sarah.
So Katrina and I studied together at Kwantlen from 2006 to 2010, and Katrina's been working as a teacher, I think, since then.
Yeah, for like the last 14 years. So,
Oh my
yeah, I
God.
went to Scotland with the intention of being a sewing teacher. But yeah, how are you finding the kids? I guess like where they're at with no skills coming into working with like difficult outerwear and different things that like we wouldn't consider difficult, but then you forget how little they know at first. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. Like, I kind of came in and I was like, I didn't realize that I tried to go to 100.
Mhm.
And so I've like kind of created this these like unit plans for the semester and drafted them out. And then I had to just like scratch all that. And when they got excited about Hawaiian print fabrics, I was like, sweet, if that means that I don't have to like, come on, thread your machine,
Yeah.
let's go. Like, and that worked. So it was like trying to like follow more their interests.
Mhm.
And then I also remembered like when I was first sewing, how I didn't care about seam allowance. Like I just wanted to whip it together. So I'm really trying to let them do that and then ask little questions instead of having like, this is our learning intention for the week. And like I'm just, and it's one thing I learned too. It's like, it's an elective. If students don't sign up for it, like
We
I
don't
don't
get
have a job.
Yeah. And so you like
So
I tell the kids, I'm like, I have to have you like sewing. Like that has, yeah.
yeah, so I'm just really trying to yeah, pare down, let them get excited. Now I got all these fabrics and stuff donated. I'm like, go for it. Cut it out. If you waste things right now as you're learning, that's fine. Like get excited if you want to switch directions. Let's do it. I'm just trying to, and of course get I also have to stop myself. Like some students, I'm like, yeah, let's do that. I want to do that. Like, I want you to make that. um, like the student, like, we're all gonna make backpacks and only a few ended up doing it, and the others have been kind of working on different side projects, and I have to try like, yeah, I am excited about all of it. And I probably am trying at still at this point, like I'm probably putting a bit too much of my passion interests on our projects, and I bet you in time like I'll kind of learn to let them do a better job of letting them figure out which way forward.
Awesome.
Yeah. I need to bug you. It's nice to see your
Yeah.
face. I need to bug
Yeah.
you for projects and resources and
Yeah. I
yeah.
know.
Thanks
Definitely.
for thanks for joining in.
Yeah.
I've got a comment here from Hassie that I'm going to read out. So he said, I'm really happy to see Sarah's story. I was working in the same industry before moving to Canada and following a similar path in my late 30s. I'm motivated now. Smiley face.
Oh, cool. I knew, and you were saying that too, Jamie, like just this is like there'll be other folks that can relate and have stories and that line up and yeah.
Yep. I've got a comment too from Kathy Norma. She said, such an inspiring presentation, so much change, adventure, growth in such a short span of time. Well done, Sarah. You'll no doubt succeed with this new addition to the curriculum. It needs to be shared with other schools and districts.
Mm. In time. Yeah. Thanks, Kathy.
One, I know a question that came up for me Oh, I'm gonna get
Hi,
Hassie.
Hassie. There's a video. Hi. So where are you now, Hassie?
So I'm in Cranbrook. So when I
Oh,
heard these, yeah,
oh my
I'm just
gosh.
bye. So I'm from Sri Lanka, and I
Yeah.
was working like 15 years in apparel industry. Like I was working with like Marks and Spencer, Next, Superdry, whatever you name the brand, like everything that I
Yeah.
have like manufactured. So when I saw you as a kind of a designer and into teaching, so it was a kind of awkward moment for me, like, oh, how she did this. Because number one, I wanted to say like I actually kind of fed up in my industry, because you know that how hard and how tough it is to manage the supply chain and production in our industries. So
Yeah.
like especially for the designers, I had a kind of a bad place, because they are the one that who come in the last moment and say right before starting the production, hey, look, I need to change this, can you do this for me, right in front of the production start. So I always used to fight with my designers back in UK, mainly. So they hate me most of the time, like I always say no guy. And yeah, once I left the industry and I take some sustainable business diploma in College of the Rockies, now I'm back to the student role for a while. And now I'm working as a property manager and a consultant job. But Kevin, as soon as we met at Co Summit 2 years back, from that day he was like begging me to have a coffee with him and talk about like what would be my next venture in Canada in related to the apparel. So I was like skipping his invitation like for 2 years now, because I was afraid like stepping back into the industry. But I was like so overwhelmed, like after hearing your story, like you are coming back into your same industry and doing kind of a different way of
Yeah.
doing things. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's right time
Yeah.
to for me to like have a coffee
Yeah.
meeting with Kevin.
Yeah. Like the same, like how your experience was on your end working with designers. I think I I like I feel that I could so relate it like I and one of the things I hated was like sitting in meetings with product line managers and buyers and like oh with the developers like oh we need that to be 2 cents cheaper there and 5 cents and just pinching for everything and it's like we don't like that how that impacts somebody's time and life and like does that mean that they don't have their Sunday off this week? I don't know. Like there's this huge disconnect when you're not working hand in hand and you're working not with the same goal of one taking care of each other just as people. And sorry, my dog's bugging me for dinner. And yeah, I just felt it just feels awful. Like regardless, I think of where you are in that mix. And building out an industry here and what Kevin wants to do with like repair and bringing, small scale manufacturing, if that's in the distant future, like, and doing it differently.
Exactly. I mean, I think I realize it once I retire from the current, I mean, the previous industry. So we used to work in silos, like you are in design silo and I was in like, business front end, like manufacturing front end. So I'm taking all the headaches of like supply chain and different departments under me. But once I retire and I start thinking about like being entrepreneur, like kind of start something by my own. So then only I realized like what you chased for at that time, which I hated, is really important to succeed in any kind of a business. like where you tried it for to make a better product for your customer, right? But
Yeah.
I was in a different silo at that time. I need to make sure that delivery is right on time.
Yeah.
So I was fighting alone in my silo, and you were fighting alone with your silo. Now I realize when I'm thinking about being an entrepreneur, yeah, so I'm everywhere. Like I'm a designer, I'm a supply chain, I'm operation guy, and I'm the finance guy. End of the day, I'm a kind of a normal human. So I think I have become the right. I have settled in a right position right now because I can see a kind of a holistic picture. So
Hmm.
that's why like I was like so impressed to see your story. So it's a kind of a different story, similar to me. It's just the role change. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for this
Well,
presentation today.
thank you too, and let me know when you go for coffee with Kevin because I will tag along.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
cool.
yeah, for sure. Okay,
Thank
cool.
you, Hasi.
Thank you.
Do you envision the kind of work you're doing with secondary schools as potentially being a feeder program into things like gear repair technician roles?
Like that's like that is the new dream now, since starting here, since moving here, since meeting Kevin and seeing what's going and like becoming part of core. Yeah, that's becoming like that would just be fantastic. Like Elkford is a little like yeah 3,000, 2,000 people, and it's an hour north of Fernie, and this town really exists because of the coal mine that's still in operation, and it's fantastic. It's a huge employer, so it's providing these families in this community with a good lifestyle and opportunities, but also all the students, at least have one parent or two parents that work at the mines, and like a lot of them, especially the ones that aren't academically driven, which is like quite a few these days. I mean, and I guess it depends on community. That's what they see their next step as. And so missing the woods and metals teacher is huge for them. It means that they don't have the opportunity to, pursue to get the credits they need to get into that trade school program or to get the apprenticeship right out of high school. And so that sucks. But I would love to be part of creating other opportunities. So absolutely. And if they could come in at grade 7, grade 8 and learn some basic skills and like build them for 4 years, knowing that there are like options to go forward with, it's wonderful.
Kind of on that note, I've got a great comment here to read out from a parent of a Elkford Secondary School student. So this is Lisa. She said that you quickly became her daughter's favorite teacher. She loved having Sarah for textiles and foods the first half of the semester and can't wait to do more next year. We are so thankful to have her at our school.
Yay. Thanks.
And the answer to this question might be obvious, but before I let you go, just kind of looking back on the decision you made to leave what from the outside looking in appeared to be a dream job at Norona in Norway. I mean, how do you feel about that decision to leave and relocate to a very small town in the Kootenays?
Mhm. At the time, it was really clear. Um, I was I was really like I was so ready to put this sort of lifestyle idea of the lifestyle I wanted first. Um, and then like yeah, reflecting, it's like I don't know, what's the saying? You always look back with greener with I don't know, or not greener grass on the other side, but like you look back with pink shaded lenses. I forget what it is. So I go up and down. I go up and down. I get really, sometimes I'm just like, what am I doing? What was I thinking? Like, I kind of like things happen in the moment, and like, I was living in Norway working at Neurona, and I quit. Like what? And then I have really good days at school, and I leave from my apartment with my skis on my feet, and I'm like, no, okay, I know what I'm doing. Um, so yeah, it shifts all the time. Um, and it's hard to move to a small community and not know anyone before moving here. Or there's one friend here that I knew before. So I've been really trying to put myself out there and like really become part of the community to try and see if it can be home. And who knows, like, yeah, at least, doing things like this and still keeping some toes in the pond of design is making it really exciting to find a combination.
Nice.
Yeah.
If there's anyone on the call who wants to get in touch with you or wants to say donate their knowledge or their materials, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yes, my personal email address, um, it's on my LinkedIn. What's the best way to share it?
That's probably a good enough way to put it.
Yeah.
You can find it
Okay.
on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my portfolio of the design work I've done for the three brands is on my website, which is just saralanyon.ca.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, if you want to check out some of that stuff.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. This concludes
you.
the Core Outdoor Speaker Series for January. For February, we'll be meeting on February 24th, back to the usual time. Yep, 11:30 to 12:30. We'll be hearing from Allie Wines. So Allie is the former executive director of Protect Our Winters Canada, and she's the current managing director for Uncommon Ground, which is a PR and communications consultancy in Toronto. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat, which I think everyone can see, a link to register for that if you're interested. Otherwise, it's going to be in Core Outdoors upcoming social media and their email newsletter and all that good stuff. So yeah, hope to see everybody there. Thanks again. And it's a wrap. I'm going to sign off and until next time. Bye, everyone.